About the success that you guys had running the ball surprise you, considering you were without your top two running backs last week?
Yes and no. Yes, obviously, whenever you're missing those two guys, you get a little bit concerned. But the offensive line and the tight ends and fullbacks did a nice job. And out on the edge, some wideouts helped spring some longer runs as well. So, we keep trying to hammer them on. It's not one individual; it's all 11 of us trying to be on the same page.
What are the main challenges this Texas defense presents you guys with?
Well, they're back again now, another odd front team. They're probably a little thicker, a little bigger, both at the linebacker level and on the D line. So the ability to get movement is going to be a big key. Obviously, last week they had some long guys, but this week now they're probably 340 at their nose guard, and when you look at the size of their linebackers, they're 240 or 240 plus. So the ability to get movement up front will be a big key.
Courtney, you guys are seventh in the nation in red zone scoring percentage and ninth in red zone touchdowns. What's been a secret to success?
The crazy part there is each week you talk all the time about taking full advantage of those opportunities, and in the last couple of weeks especially, we've done a nice job scoring touchdowns. And getting points is huge, but touchdowns makes it that much easier to continue to kind of stay ahead in the scoreboard wise.
Can you walk us through your decision to introduce the option to the offense the last 2 weeks?
It's always been there. It just kind of comes back to a little bit the comfort level of where you feel Skyler's at, where the quarterback's at. And we felt like, especially the last couple of weeks, that in the red zone, it gives us another dynamic, and it forces them to have to defend 11 guys rather than 10 when we're handing it off.
How do you game plan for against secondary players, Caden Stearns, B.J. Foster, with such limited film on them as they come back this week?
Yeah, obviously he's a really, really good player, and part of it comes back to how much they are expecting him to be back and how much they want him back. But the bottom line really ends up being you just got to be smart as an offense. When you have chances to take advantage of something, take advantage of it, but don't turn it over. Be smart with the football because he's a very good football player.
Coach, you mentioned Skyler's ability in the option. He was talking the other day about how he feels like this offensive system fits his skill set and rushing ability a little bit more. Can you speak to that? How his running ability fits into this offense?
He's obviously not a tailback, but he does do a nice job with his feet. He does a nice job understanding when do I go try to quote move the chains and when do I go ahead and run out of bounds and or be smart. And that's the biggest thing that I've told him since day one is, third downs and in the red zone, your feet and your ability to run the football needs to be in our game plan. If it's 1st and 10, or if we're out at the 30, 35-yard line coming out, then be smart. If you get a 10-yard gain and you get out of bounds, we'll all live with that. And that's what we got to keep him understanding. When do I play more like a running back, and when do I remember that I am our quarterback?
How tempting is it to use him more when you're having that kind of success with him on the ground?
Yeah, it's something that you've got to make sure you're guarded a little bit and don't fall in love with calling run plays where you're pretty sure he's going to keep the ball, because we do have a number of reads. If it's a zone read or a power read where he can keep it, but you got to be smart because you don't want him carrying it 20 times a game.
Where do you feel like James and Jordan are at health-wise at this point in the week?
I felt really good with Jordan. James at times has looked good. At other times it'll be more of a game day decision, I believe. And even with Jordan, I think it'll still be that, because whenever you got lower body injuries as a running back, it's always, you can step just wrong, or you can have whatever happen, even in a scout team setting where you get nicked up a little bit and then you back up. And obviously we need both those guys healthy.
Joe Irvin is at the 4-game mark. Is it fair to assume you're going to continue to keep him in the game plan, or might you try to hold him out?
No, I would anticipate Joe continuing to play. Now, again, we are at a position where we'd have to make that decision. I wouldn't want to play him just one play in a specific game, but he needs to be a guy that we can rely on, and I think right now he is.
When it comes to red zone touchdowns, going back to that, how much of that is an ingredient of toughness?
Well, you always want to say that because you want to get down inside the 3 or 4 or 5 yard line and say we're just going to pound it and knock it in. But I think it still comes much more back to just executing whatever it may be. We've had options down there. We've just handed it to the tailback and scored down there.
Mm-hmm.
But we've actually thrown it down there and did a nice job a couple weeks ago throwing the football down there on 3rd down in the red zone. And the biggest thing is just executing, not having a mindset of we have to do it this way or we have to do it another way, but it's just whatever is called, do we execute it?
Do plays like the speed option or scramble plays that Skyler's had success on lately lend itself better to his ability than maybe something like a QB power or trying to like run between the tackles and stuff?
Well, and again, it goes back to a little bit what the defense is playing. The last few weeks, he's gotten in a situation where it was man coverage, and whether it was draw or him just scrambling and taking off and running. When it's man coverage, there's generally not a guy that's got the quarterback. Now, other teams may play with what they call a spy, and they have somebody that specifically has him. But the last couple of weeks, there hasn't been that situation.
Is he a little more elusive than maybe people?
Oh, I think very much so. I think that all of us would say he's a thrower first, but I think he's a good enough athlete that I think people are seeing you have to defend him from a run game standpoint.
What's impressed you, Courtney, the most about Harry Toronto?
Oh, just that he comes to work every single day, and it doesn't matter what you ask him to do. If we're throwing the ball to him or if we're handing it to him, he just goes and does his job. And he's never a guy that's worried about how many reps he gets. He's just ready when he does get his opportunity.
Anything else?